but I do think that the president's going to look back on where he was 7 years ago, where he is today, where the country is, 5% unemployment. I remember when it was double-digit, and most people were thinking we'd never get to below double-digit unemployment. There's been a lot of good things that have happened in our economy, but it's the wage disparity and it's the outsourcing that has really brought a lot of American families to struggle, and this constant fight over health care. Now, I'm in the process of changing jobs, which is changing our health care. And, you know, when you cover health care and you talk about health care in this business, you wonder if it's ever going to get personal. I think you know the struggle that my family's had. My wife is on the mend in a big, big way with cancer. We're in our third year battling that, and we're winning. Now, she's well over the $1 million mark when it comes to expenses in fighting this disease. Obamacare is trying to be repealed by the Republicans. The president vetoed it. Let's just say the president signed it, and there was no more health care bill, that the Affordable Care Act would be gone. That means me changing jobs, my wife would lose her insurance. Just the simple portability of it, the simple of being rejected because you've got a pre-existing condition. This is real life stuff. And I hope the president talks about the accomplishments of the health care bill that was passed and where we need to go from here. Because this is going to bubble up on the campaign trail as we get closer. There's a real division between Republicans and Democrats on what we're going to do with health care in this country. For more on this, and a member of the House Budget Committee, let's go to Congressman Tim Ryan. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Ed.
What a game last night, huh?
Oh,
holy smokes. Was that one of the all-time best you've ever seen?
That was an unbelievable. I tell you, love or hate Coach Saban, the guy got guts. I mean, that's why he wins the big games. He knows that he makes that call on the onside kick and perfectly executed. They've probably been practicing it all year, especially
the kickoff return, the special teams.
Yeah.
How do you not watch that game and walk away unbelievably impressed with that quarterback from Clemson? Who is that kid? I mean, you know, he's from the ACC. Clemson has a great year and everything else, but when you sit and watch him for a full game and not a highlight reel, I mean, it's just play after play.
Yeah, he moves around. He breaks your back. The 1 third down, he goes from all the way to the right side of the field all the way back around for the first down. I mean, you just drive defenses crazy.
Yeah.
Reminded me of Big Eddie Schultz back in his day.
No, they used to get the sundial out to time me into 40.
You were a pocket passer.
That's right. When I set up, they knew where I was going to be. All right, Congressman, what are we going to hear out of the president tonight? What are the expectations? And I mean, how lofty can he get when he knows he's in his last year and he's dealing with a Congress that has said no to everything he's wanted to do?
Well, I think it's interesting from what I was reading in the papers this morning and a little bit on the talk shows this weekend. He's going to try to kind of recap, I think, some of the accomplishments, which I think is a pretty good idea because he will be limited moving forward in the next year with exactly what he can do working with Congress. And so I think a reminder of the things you were just talking about, you know, with you and your wife and portability and pre-existing conditions and all of that. I think just a reminder of how important that is. And if there's a few glitches, let's fix them and keep moving forward. And then also it sounds like, you know, something that's going to be grounded in trying to unify the country again. And he has been, love him or hate him, he's been a polarizing figure in the last few years. Part of that's media-driven, but part of it is just, you know, how things have unfolded since the crisis in 2008, 9, 10, the collapse of the economy and all the rest. So trying to bring people back together because really when you look at it, when you talk about the kind of healthcare issues that you were talking about, and really at the end of the day, the quote-unquote Obamacare was really the Republican alternative back in the day to the Clinton plan. So realistically, we should all be looking at this as a middle-of-the-road kind of thing. I wanted single-payer. You wanted single-payer. We wanted a public option. We didn't get that stuff, but we have what should be perceived as a middle-of-the-road. Infrastructure, that should be seen as a middle-of-the-road American unifying issue. Rebuilding our country, wiring our schools, making sure every kid has access to the technology available. You look at research and development, whether it's the National Science Foundation or the kind of cancer research that needs to happen, or Alzheimer's. These are things that are middle of the road. So I think he's going to try to bring everybody together and say, hey, guys, there's a lot more we agree on than disagree on. Let's have our fights. We all kind of enjoy it, but at the end of the day, we've got to do the work of the American people, and we should agree on a lot of this stuff.
Congressman, does Syria deserve a place in tonight's State of the Union address? And what's unfolding in the Middle East and relations with big players? We're at a boiling point in many regards. And, of course, the Republicans are going to be chopping at the bit. They totally disagree with everything the president's done in this regard. Where does he go on foreign policy tonight?
I think he's going to be very careful. I think he's going to have to comment on it, and he's going to have to make people continue to make people aware of how complicated and complex the problems are when you're dealing with these lone wolf attacks, and when you're dealing with a global jihad that can just be inspired, and these, as I said, lone wolfers acting, wherever they are in America or across the country. The issue with the refugees, and then the active attempts to try to sneak, radical terrorists into these refugee programs and slide them into these different countries. How complicated this is to be both compassionate and safe, and then to try to solve the problem. But I think he does have to be careful, because both Democrats and Republicans have disagreed with how he's handled the Syria issue really from the very, very beginning. And so he's got to be careful on how much he gets into it. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, too, we've got to start preparing for what's happening in China right now. It's already having a ripple effect into South America and Central America because of all the commodities that were supplied to China over the last few years, when even in a bad year they're growing at 7 or 8%, not to mention the 12, 14, 15% growth they were having for a while. China's in a free fall right now. Their banking system is dark. Their financial system is dark. We don't really know what's going on. Their military budget is dark. So I think he's got to address that big elephant in the middle of the room, too. So as you can see, his plate's going to be full to try to address all these big challenges we're facing.
Yet the president says we have to do the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or China will write the rules. China can't even write their own currency right now.
Well, that's taken a lot of the air out of the balloon of that argument, I will tell you right now. And when you look closely at this TPP, whether it's subverting local, state, national laws, like with the country of origin labeling, or smoking laws, smoking bans that we have, food safety, TPP is written, basically to undercut local consumer protection laws. Mm-hmm. Just one example. Not to mention what's going on in Vietnam with labor unions and the inability to unionize in some of these countries. And then you come back and you look, which is very telling. You see what's happening with the Supreme Court, very close to gutting the public union's ability to be active politically. And that's going to be a major, major blow to the unions, public sector unions, as well as Democrats. And continue to tilt the scale towards the big super PACs, the Koch brothers, and the Republican establishment money.
Congressman Tim Ryan, good to have you with us. All the best, my friend. We'll do it again.
Take care, big guy.